Israel is taking up the brakes, and a critical stage in the fighting in the Gaza Strip has arrived. Today, we will bring you all the information about the death blow planned for Hamas and the IDF's next objective in the Gaza Strip, Gaza City. However, Hamas isn't the only threat Israel is confronting. The phenomenon of ISIS supporters is expanding, and in recent days, an attempted attack inspired by the terror organization was foiled inside Israel. Meanwhile, the threat from Iran has not been completely removed, and United States President Donald Trump is brushing off the demands the Ayatollah regime is making, declaring this week that we are not talking with Iran, and I'm offering them nothing. Inside Iran, there are many questions, and there are also increased suspicions towards the neighboring states, especially Azerbaijan, as well as religious rulings against President Trump and a drone struggle between the factions. But the biggest question of all is what on earth has happened to Supreme Leader Khamenei. Some senior members of the regime say that they're interested in pursuing negotiations with the United States over the nuclear program, but they can't seem to get authorization from the Supreme Leader or even communicate directly with him. Is this evil man even still alive? And if not, who is really in charge of Iran these days? Speaking of who really is in charge these days, Abu Muhammad al-Julani, the interim president of Syria, is interested in pursuing a peace deal with Israel in exchange for sanctions relief and recognition from the United States and other Western powers. But will he be able to make such a deal when so many of his partners and allies are committed to violent jihad, an ideology that is basically anti-Israel? Finally, it is very important for me to say this today. We, the people of Israel, just saved the world, and that is no cliche. But no good deed goes unpunished, right? Or what else can you say to explain the rise of global anti-Semitism right now? Israel just saved civilized humanity, but instead of saying thank you, the world is accusing us of crimes against humanity. Today, we'll take a look at some of the reasons why. Welcome to Boots on the Ground. I'm your host, Yair Pinto, bringing you all the truth about what is happening in Israel. So the IDF plans to intensify the fighting in the Gaza Strip by inserting another division. And after finishing the operation in Iran, the forces will focus on striking Hamas in Gaza City with a full complement of tactical and air support. The goal is a decisive victory within weeks and control of 75% of the Gaza Strip. In the past 24 hours, the IDF has increased pressure in the northern Gaza in parallel with a cabinet decision on complementing the current phase of Operation Gideon's Chariots. The main concern is that the forces' advance could endanger the hostages. And in a related development, the IDF announced it is temporarily closing the aid compound in Tel Sultan in light of investigations and checks conducted with the GHF organization. And meanwhile, a terror cell was arrested during the night and an explosive device laboratory was located in Ramallah, north of Jerusalem. Now, circling back to Iran, the regime is increasing reconstruction efforts in Fordo, as satellite photos shows trucks and tractors near the ventilation shaft of the uranium enrichment halls not far from the sites hit by the United States bombs. Meanwhile, following the war with Israel, the regime in Iran is sharpening its tone, intensifying internal surveillance, and encouraging religious rulings that warn against the United States and against Israel. And at the same time, regime officials have begun to point a finger at Azerbaijan, their neighbor to the north, claiming that this country assisted Israel in the attacks against Iran. The regime is also expelling hundreds of thousands of Afghan refugees, uprooting them under harsh conditions. As another indication of the chaotic situation inside Iran, reports have emerged that some regime officials have expressed interest in holding talks with the Trump administration, despite public statements with the opposite message. But the final decision lies solely with Khamenei. And elsewhere, in the last 24 hours, Iranian officials accused India of allowing Israel to use some of its software components to breach Iranian systems. In other words, software that was developed in India and imported into Iran contained Israeli programs that collected information that aided in the elimination of Iranian nuclear scientists. The breach was carried out via the use of Starlink, which today has been outlawed in Iran. And why are analysts in Tehran predicting that Israel is planning another surprise attack within 1 week? A commentator on Iranian television has issued warnings that Israel and the United States are using the ceasefire to reorganize militarily and will renew a devastating attack on Iran within a week. He went on to warn that Iranian senior officials will be the target. Is he right? Or is this just paranoid ravings? Let me know in the comments. So guys, we have a lot to talk about today, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on day 634 of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, the Shia militias in Iraq, and all the other armed groups in this region that are taking their orders from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, the head of what's left of the axis of evil in the Middle East. And a moment before we begin, it's important to remember that the people of Israel are fighting like lions against evil. But unfortunately, we are losing on one very important front, which is the war for the truth. And for that, I need your help at home. So keep spreading the truth, share our content with as many people as possible, stand with Israel, and give us a click on the subscribe button, leave a comment, and share this video with one of your friends. And also, never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. Now, we start our news report in the Gaza Strip, where over the past 24 hours, the IDF has increased pressure in the northern part of Gaza, especially in Gaza City, while the Security Political Cabinet is discussing completion of the current phase of Operation Gideon's Chariots. Gaza City is the most significant stronghold remaining to Hamas after Khan Yunis, so in the last 24 hours the Air Force carried out extensive strikes in the city, in the Shati camp, and in Tufa. Then, on Tuesday morning, the IDF spokesperson in Arabic issued evacuation notices to Gazan residents, a step that usually precedes an expansion of the ground maneuver. And according to the IDF, Hamas has 2 functioning brigades left, the Gaza City Brigade and the Central Camps Brigade. Some operatives are in those locations and others have fled to the humanitarian area in El Mawasi. The cabinet will have to decide on the next stage: evacuating the northern strip of residents, building additional distribution centers, and whether to advance into other areas. The principal concern is that the forces' advance could endanger the safety of the hostages still held inside Gaza. Yesterday, the Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, presented to the cabinet the next phase of the IDF's assault plan in the Gaza Strip. The intention is to intensify the fighting, and another division may be assigned to the campaign in the Gaza Strip with the goal of returning to operations with 5 divisions. Israeli security sources say that they do not intend to let Hamas keep playing the game. The IDF is serious in its intent to step up the activity. We are in good place right now, and after the operation in Iran, we can bring the full power of the Air Force and the maneuvering forces to the Gaza campaign. The intention is to bring about Hamas's defeat within days to just a few weeks. Khalil El-Hayya is sitting in Qatar and thinks he can continue as usual, but he's mistaken, and he will understand very well how mistaken he was. Another military source added that in the past week, the IDF achieved several operational successes. We struck what was left of Hamas's general staff. We managed to recover 3 hostage bodies. We succeeded in isolating Hamas from the food supply to civilians. We have to continue. It is not right to stop Operation Gideon's Chariots at this stage. And speaking of this stage, the IDF says that the strategic objectives of Operation Rising Lion in Iran were achieved ahead of schedule, and the aircraft and other assets that were used in that campaign are now once again available for the operations in the Gaza Strip. As things stand, Israel intends to carry out several significant moves in parallel. One move is to hit Hamas's array in Gaza City and other areas. The other move is to sever the link between Hamas's food distribution and the civilian population. The strike against Hamas's infrastructure in Gaza City is enabled by the activity that has begun in recent days. The IDF spokesperson in Arabic instructed residents of a series of neighborhoods and streets in those areas to evacuate and gather in the area defined as El Mawasi. The IDF intends to separate civilians from combatants, terrorists, and, as in other areas, conduct a strike with heavy firepower. At the end of the move, the IDF is expected to hold more than 75% of the Gaza Strip's territory with no Hamas military presence and no Gazan civilians in the war zone areas. The IDF also stated that based on lessons learned, it was decided to close temporarily a first aid compound in the Tel El Sultan area and to establish nearby a new distribution compound designed to reduce friction with the population and safeguard the troops' security on the ground. The IDF said that these steps are intended to allow quick and safe passage of residents, orderly distribution of aid, and maintenance of the IDF's operational continuity. And this is as part of the ongoing operational efforts to secure the areas adjacent to the distribution compounds. The IDF is conducting a continuous process of investigation and learning in order to improve the operational response in that area, minimize the friction with the population, and ensure that the aid actually reaches its destination. It is important to point out that Hamas has attempted to intimidate the civilian population into staying in these areas and allowing themselves to be used as human shields, but this attempt failed. People voted with their feet, moving to the designated safe zones and collecting humanitarian aid from the GHF. The distribution is being conducted with daily improvements and learning. So if you are asking whether there is hunger in the Gaza Strip, the answer is that there is significantly less than what was there before. And also, at the present moment, there are fuel reserves in the Gaza Strip, and the IDF is allowing the fuel to be regulated so that it reaches the generators which power hospitals, because Israel does not want to see the hospitals collapse, even though we know that Hamas benefits from them staying open. Furthermore, in the past week, the IDF achieved several operational successes, striking what was left of Hamas's general staff, recovering the remains of 3 hostages who died in captivity, and most importantly of all, from the strategic perspective, we succeeded in isolating Hamas from the food supply to the civilians. So guys, here at TBN Israel, we will continue reporting on all these issues, and as always, we ask you to keep spreading the truth, share, and follow us to make a real contribution to dismantling the enemy that is spreading lies. You need to help us by hitting the subscribe button and sharing these videos on social media, and tell your friends what's happening so that they will know how to pray for the situation. Now, I've just spoken about some of the steps that are being taken to manage the severe humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip, but I have to tell you that there is also a humanitarian crisis in Israel. Israel's economy has taken a massive hit. Between the war with Iran and months of ongoing conflict, thousands of small businesses have been forced to close, slow down, or survive without income. Behind every one of these businesses is a family trying to rebuild. That's why Artza is stepping in, not with charity, but with work. So by partnering directly with Israeli artisans and small businesses and business owners, they help create steady income through something simple, beautiful, crafted, meaningful products that ship around the world. Each Artza box supports dozens of makers, ceramics, olive oil wood cravers, farmers, bakers, all of them working hard to stand back on their feet after months of uncertainty. Subscribers aren't just getting a taste of Israel to their home, they're investing in the recovery of the people of Israel. So guys, to subscribe and to support the rebuilding in Israel, visit www.artzabox.com/TBNIL. Again, that's www.artzabox.com/TBNIL and use the code TBNIL for a 10% off. Again, the code is TBNIL and you'll get a 10% discount on your purchase with Artza Box. Now back to the news, and we're shifting our focus to the battle against terrorism in the heartland of Israel. In the last 24 hours, the IDF spokesperson announced that soldiers from Battalion 7114, together with Shin-Bet forces located in Ramallah, an explosive laboratory containing materials for preparing explosive charges. The forces also arrested a terrorist cell that had planned to carry out attacks against Israeli civilians and against IDF troops. So guys, here at TBN Israel, we know that most of our viewers never hear the truth about what's happening in these areas, so we will continue to bring you all of the truth, boots on the ground style. And now, let's move on to Iran, or more precisely, to the IRGC in Iran. We'll start with the amusing item. On Tuesday morning, an account on X posing as the Mossad's official account posted a troll jab at Ismail Qani, the commander of the IRGC's Quds force. There have been rumors in recent days that he is cooperating with Israel, and this account claiming to speak for the Mossad said Qani is not our spy. Of course, that's what the Mossad would say if he was working for them actually. It's also what they might say if he wasn't. It's also what a group of practical jokers who are not actually the Mossad would say if they were trying to get Qani in a lot of trouble, or if they were trying to help him, or who knows what's going on. What makes it even more ironic is that the reason the suspicion has fallen on Qani is that he was not amongst the senior IRGC figures who were hit in the initial wave of strikes on June 13. So, if he had been hit, he'd be above suspicion, but he would probably also be dead. As it is, many find the fact that he's not dead to be very suspicious. However, there are others who speculate that the reason that Qani wasn't hit in that opening salvo is not that he's an active Mossad agent, but rather it's because he's so bad at his job that the Mossad thought it was better to leave him alone to continue making mistakes. After he was promoted to take over the role from the assassinated Qasem Soleimani 5 years ago, the regional terror network known as the Axis of Resistance that Soleimani built and included Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, the pro-Iranian militias in Syria, as well as the Houthis in Yemen and the Iraqi militias collapsed and were destroyed. To be fair, it's not easy being an IRGC general these days. I'm glad that no one ever asked me to be one. So guys, but it's also not easy being in any other position in this regime. I'm talking about Iran, or even in the broader Iranian public. In the days after the war between Israel and Iran, the Iranian stock exchange continues to plunge. The regime has encouraged a hardline religious tone. It has tightened internal surveillance and is blaming Israel for infiltrating agents. In addition to cracking down on its own people, the regime is also lashing out at the neighboring countries. Iran's ambassador to Armenia, Mehdi Shabni, said on Monday that Iran demanded its neighbor Azerbaijan investigate whether Israeli aircraft used its airspace for strikes against Iran. The ambassador asserted, if this is true, Tehran demands an official response and clear explanation from Azerbaijan. If it allowed such a thing for Israel, it must provide explanations under international law. No one in this regime ever asked me for my advice, but if they did, I would tell them to stop blaming everyone else for the problems that they themselves caused and start working on trying to find some solutions to these problems. And there are a lot of problems in Iran right now. This is the third straight day of steep declines on the Tehran Stock Exchange. The Iranian currency keeps losing value and investors are rushing to pull out their money. This is the exact opposite of what's happening in Israel right now, by the way. Our stock exchange is going up in value, as is our currency. But getting back to Iran, amidst the uncertainty, the regime is tightening its control. And on Monday, the Iranian parliament approved a bill banning civilian drones from flying without a permit over areas belonging to military, security, or police bodies or classified areas. The move is meant to deal with fears of leaks, espionage, or intelligence gathering via drones, especially in light of regime claims of growing Israeli involvement. The Iranian police spokesman announced this week that they arrested at a Tehran metro station a man the authorities claim acted as a Mossad agent. According to the statement, the detainee was engaged in producing UAVs and small aircrafts in the west of the province, cooperated with a local figure who also worked for Israel and collected information on the deployment of Iran's air defense systems, including sending precise, sensitive coordinates. Police also revealed video footage of which the man seemingly confesses to the alleged deeds. Guys, do you think we should take the Iranian police at their word that this video is real? Do you think that the man making a confession in this video really is an Israeli agent, or it all is a big fake? Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm curious to hear. In any case, two senior clerks in Iran expressed strongly against the United States, stressing that Iran's religious duty is to resist what they called the global front of infidelity. They also conveyed a hardline message that silence or compromise towards the American administration equals betrayal to Islam. Ayatollah Shirazi, one of the leading religious authorities in Iran, published a fatwa following threats by the United States President and Israel against Supreme Leader Khamenei, saying, any person or regime that threatens the Muslim nation and its leadership by harming or attempting to harm the leader and religion, his ruling is that of one who wages war against Islam. Any cooperation or support for him by Muslims or Islamic states is absolutely forbidden. Shirazi called on Muslims worldwide to make the enemies regret their actions, adding that anyone who bears hardship in this path, his reward is like that of one who fights for Allah. I know we have many viewers in Muslim-majority countries here in the Middle East and around the world. What do you think about these fatwas that were issued by these Shiite clerks? They seem kind of self-serving to me, but what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. One person who we don't need to wonder what he's thinking is the United States President Donald Trump, who declared on Tuesday morning that he's not talking with Iran at all, and that he is offering the Islamic Republic nothing. Trump's words, posted on his social network, the Truth Social, comes after he had said several times in the past week that Tehran wants to negotiate now that the war is over and that he was expected to speak with it. And responding to Democratic Senator Chris Coons, Trump wrote, "Tell him I'm offering Iran nothing. unlike Obama, who paid them millions under the JCPOA path to a bomb deal, which has now expired, and that I'm not even talking to them since that totally destroyed their nuclear facilities. Speaking to that issue, during a press conference this week, United States Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General John Kane revealed details about the strike on Fordow, saying that 2 JBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator bombs were dropped first to strip away concrete layers over the 2 ventilation shafts, and then 5 more bombs on each shaft. He said they penetrated through the openings and plunged inside at a tremendous speed of more than 1,100 kilometers per hour before exploding in the underground nuclear complex, or mission area, as he put it. One pilot told him that the immense blast was the brightest he had ever seen, lighting up the night sky like day. So guys, here at TBN Israel, we will continue to bring you all the truth about what's happening in Israel, so spread it to as many people as possible so that they will know what is happening and how to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And guys, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and help us reach more people with what's happening in Israel, in the Middle East, because it affects all of you. Now, there's one more amazing story to report to you today about Indian technologies embedded in Iran's IT systems that included backdoor capabilities, espionage monitoring and penetration operated by Israeli intelligence. These systems were used to help the Mossad crack down and assassinate Iranian nuclear scientists in the recent war. That's an accusation that's been made in a story published in Iranian media this week. According to the Iranian newspaper Hayan, which is closely linked to the Ayatollah regime, the popularity of Indian software led to the penetration of many technologies into the Persian Gulf states and into Iran. The media portal wrote in their report that after the Mossad's penetration into Iran and further investigations with China and Russia, it was revealed that Indian programmers have been in contact with Iran via Elon Musk's Starlink. Probably in reaction to those reports, Iran's ICT ministry announced on Tuesday that henceforth the operation, sale, or possession of Starlink equipment is illegal on Iranian soil, adding that it posed a risk to foreign interference in the national communications infrastructure. All of this comes after reports of an investigation conducted by Iran's security forces under the auspices of a special committee, including advisors from China and Russia, which produced severe findings about the activities of foreign software operating in India. Now, I think it's important to point out that China and Russia are competitors with India in the production and the distribution of software, so maybe we shouldn't be so quick to take their word for it and this Indian software that was compromised. In any case, according to the report in Hayan, arrests and interrogations exposed a shocking truth. Many of the Indian software programs operating in Iran are Israeli and include backdoors. These send data to Israel in real time. The data includes sensitive information, population registry details, passport information, airport system data, and more. The paper writes that these programs also enabled remote control capabilities to disrupt military systems. Similar software is said to exist in organizations in Gulf states, including the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Kuwait. The report added that the implication is that anyone entering or leaving these countries is monitored, and the information about him is passed to Israel. The Gulf region website wrote that investigation into Indian software and technology companies operating in Iran highlights the complex intersection of technology, espionage, and warfare in the Israel-Iran conflict. While Indian firms provide vital digital infrastructure to Iranian institutions, the backdoor access exploited by Israeli intelligence underscores the risks of foreign software in sensitive national security environments. The case is a stark reminder of how cyber vulnerabilities can have real-world consequences in geopolitical conflicts. Be that as it may, here at TBN Israel, we will continue to spread the truth, so guys, please share and follow us, and above all, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to help us reach more people with what's happening in Israel so that they will know how to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Now, we shift our focus once again to the direct dialogue between Syria and Israel. Syrian sources revealed to the Lebanese newspaper El Akbar this week that intensive discussions are being held far from the media within the closed circles of Syria's new regime regarding the insistence of the United States that Syria sign a peace agreement with Israel. The sources noted that contrary to claims by international envoys that Syrian President Abu Muhammad al-Julani welcomes the idea of establishing relations with Israel, the discussions showed there is no consensus for such a step, even within his circle of close advisors. Guys, here at TBN Israel, we will be closely watching these developments, which are very hopeful but also very risky. A lot can happen in Syria, and it can happen very quickly, and this is definitely an area that can use a lot of prayer. Now, I want to conclude with some of my own thoughts about all of this. It's hard to imagine a more decisive moment in human history, but it's not the first such decisive moment. In the past, there were natural disasters, pandemic diseases, and many other things that caused enormous numbers of people to be wiped out, civilizations to crumble, and entire regions of this planet's surface to be left desolate. But nothing could be done about any of this. There have also been man-made diseases and disasters that probably could have been prevented if only the voices sounding an alarm had been heard and taken seriously. But in the last few weeks, tiny little Israel, one of the smallest nations on this planet, saved the world from a terrible disaster by setting back Iran's nuclear program and possibly setting up the possibility for the Ayatollah regime to be removed from power in Iran. The work is not finished yet, and the disaster could still come, and in any case, the reasons that it became such a big problem in the first place is based on the hatred that so many people have against Israel and against the Jewish people. This is a spiritual issue, but it manifests as a political, social, cultural, and sometimes religious issue. The way that you can help us push back against it is by prayer for the people who hate and who teach their children to hate, to have a change of heart and love us in Israel and in the West. But in the immediate term, Israel had to act against an immediate threat. And now we are left with the question of whether Israel took the necessary steps in time. I have no doubt that it would have been better if we had acted sooner. But I also see that it is obvious that this strike, which decapitated the IRGC leadership, took out many nuclear scientists and demolished so many of the ballistic missiles and launchers that Iran were threatening us with, took a long time to prepare. The American general George A. Patton once said that a good plan, violently executed, is better than a perfect plan next week. And as a general principle, I'm sure that this is correct, but in this case, Israel violently executed a nearly perfect plan. And like I said, it might have been early or late or just in time. For now, I'm glad that we acted so aggressively and so efficiently, and I want to believe that we were in time to prevent an even bigger disaster. I'm also glad that when this moment of history came, the United States of America stood by our sides. But what about the rest of the civilized world, guys? There are many evil things that are happening, and the truth is being lost. In Europe, in the United States, in university campuses, people are spreading lies about Israel, about the truth, about what we're fighting for, about the fact that all we want is to have a future of peace. In this region, in the Middle East, we do not want wars, and people are losing this message. In order to defend our freedoms and our rights, we need to fight and we need to take action. If good people do not speak up and stand for the truth, then we are losing this war. We need you to stand up, to share the truth, to speak up against evil things that are happening all around you, because this is the only way to battle lies, with sharing the truth. And guys, if you need help, just pray. Just pray that God will help you in whatever environment you're in whatever situation. He can turn any challenge into an amazing opportunity to share His love to this world. And He has been doing unbelievable miracles in Israel, in this war. The only reason that Israel is winning against multiple enemies on multiple fronts for so long is because God is performing miracles, and He's faithful to His promises to the people of Israel, and He will be faithful to His promise to each and every one of you. So guys, be encouraged. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for all those that are risking their lives to defend your freedoms, because Iran and all these terrorists, they only want to start with Israel, then they want to expand and move to Europe, to the United States of America, and to other places. Remember, they call Israel the small Satan and the United States of America the big Satan. And they also have many nice things to say about Europe, about all the infidels, which are basically anybody who doesn't believe what they believe in. So guys, let's unite in prayer. Let's stand for the truth. Let's keep praying for the Israeli hostages to be released from Gaza, for the IDF soldiers that are protecting all of us. Let's pray for all the Iranian people that need help right now because the regime is now attacking them. Let's pray for all those innocent lives that are harmed in the Gaza Strip, in Lebanon, in Syria, and in Israel. Let's pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.